What is up, Fence fam? A question I see a lot in the comments in the Shark Hinge videos is specifically about the gate frames themselves. How do you frame them up? What size holes? Where do you drill them? That sort of thing. What size material do we use? To answer these questions and to show you how we fabricate one of the steel frame gates for Shark Hinges, I'm going to throw it over to Matt.
Thanks, Joe. We're over here in the shop and we're going to be talking about how to throw together a gate for the Shark hinges and the Shark latch. I figured it'd be two good talking points. One would be the takeoffs, the distance in between the post and the gate frame, and kind of give you just an up-close view of that. And then the second talking point would be basically where to fabricate the holes in the frame so that the Shark hardware can be adapted to the frame and then put on the post. So we'll go over and talk about the first one. Here we have the Shark hinge, and it's made to adapt onto a 2.5 inch outside diameter post. It comes with a hinge and then a U-bolt. It's actually pretty handy. It's got the U-bolt and basically just an impact that you can get around. I believe that this one is a 7/8 inch nut. They've got a cutout here for you to be able to put your impact in here and tighten them up. And I think the easiest way to do it would be to actually put the hinges onto the gate frame first, and then have somebody help you hold the gate frame with the hinges on it up to the post to get the U-bolts around the back side of the post. So you got the hinge here, and then the other part is the latch. Now they make two different types of latches. This particular one that you're looking at is for a single gate, and really the main difference between a single and a double is that the single will attach to a post, again 2.5 inch, and the double will actually basically just be this section here without attaching to the post. So it just goes to one of the frames of the gate. But really, when you buy the Shark hardware or the Shark setup, you're going to want to account for how much space is in between the hinge and the latch. So for a single latch, basically just go from inside of the post just past the outside of here. We call it about 3.5 inches, and that's a good, just a good area for the gate to come in here and swing. Each one comes with the latch and then also this handle slash striker bar. It's basically 2-in-1, and this would get mounted to the actual gate frame, and then as your gate opens and closes, the striker bar is what connects to the latch. And they should be able to show you back on the other side kind of what that looks like when it's all put up. So we just went over the takeoffs for a single latch, and we decided that's about 3.5 inches from the inside of the post to where you want your gate frame to hit. And this is the single latch. If you're going to buy Shark hardware for a double drive kit, it's going to include the double drive latch. The only difference in between the two is that this one attached to the post, this one's set up to attach to one of the frames of your double drive. And essentially, you have square tube. We use 1.5 by 1.5 square tube for our gate frames. And they come with these holes back here to self-tap them with your choice of metal screw. And it would sit on the gate frame, and then this one would sit on your other gate frame, and they would come together and connect that way. So when you're looking at this and you're measuring, you got about 1 inch, give or take, maybe a little more. Basically be from the inside of this square tube on over, which you can see is about 1 inch, maybe a little bit more. But that would be the main difference in between the single latch and the double latch. So now that we have the latches measured out, we want to look at the hinge. And if it's a single gate, you're only going to have one set of hinges. So you could just look at it this way and go from the inside of the post on out to the outside of this, which is about 3.5 inches. So we now know that the hinge is going to be about 3.5 inches. The single latch is going to be about 3.5 inches. That gives us to a total takeoff of 7 inches. And that's going to be pretty tight. So we normally do ours about 7.5. And that allows for a lot of different variables. And it makes a pretty good fit. So we say 7.5 inches for a single gate. And we go about 8 inches, 8.5 for a double gate. Now that we took a look at the hardware from Shark, we're going to go ahead and go over the second talking point, and that is basically what material do we use for the gate and how do we prefabricate the gate to make it easy for the guys to go out in the field and be able to throw it up pretty easily.
All right, guys, one feature I like a lot with Company Cam is they give you a map that has pins for all your projects. I've got a customer that wants to see cedar, pre-stained, walnut fences that we've done recently to get an idea how they look. I pulled up the map icon on my Company Cam project folder, and it's going to show me all of them, but it only shows 50 at a time. So this is 50 of the 420. But because we had the labels that I showed you guys last time, I know there's a label for pre-stained walnut, and it'll show me all the projects that are pre-stained walnut. I can simply click them. I can grab the address and send that to him, or I can download a few photos as a montage, send those to him as well. Company Cam is great for contractors because it makes my job and your job a whole lot easier.
So here we are, part 2 of our talking point. We just got done going over the hinges and the latch, the takeoffs, the differences between the latch of the single and the double gate latch. Now we're going to be talking about basically fabricating the frame of the gate, or the gate in its entirety. Basically what we're going to be doing for this particular demonstration is we're going to be building a 6 foot tall, 4 foot wide gate frame. And when I say 6 foot tall gate frame, I actually mean 60 inches, even though that's 5 foot. The reasoning for that is the pickets that we're going to be using are 6 foot. And we basically want our frame to be shorter than that. You know, the bottom of it to come up here and the top to be about here. And that gives you your picket relief, which is roughly 6 inches on the top, 6 inches on the bottom. So for every gate that we make for our guys, we always make them a foot shorter. So for 4 foot fence, it'd be 3 foot tall, and so on and so forth. This particular one we're going to make exactly 4 feet wide, and then they're going to use that for the gate right over on the other side of the property. And they probably set their post, I would imagine, 7.5 or so inches larger than 48 inches to account for the hinge and the latch. So normally what I do is just mark out kind of what I want to do for the frame of the gate. So for this one, like I said, it's going to be 60 inches tall, and it's going to be 48 inches wide. And we use 1.5-inch square tube. I guess really you could use what you had. It's going to really need to be square tube. All the Shark stuff is pretty much built for square material, not necessarily round when it comes to the actual gate frame. And 1.5 inches seems to be the sweet spot. I suppose you could use something a little larger, maybe 2 inch if that's what you had. You really wouldn't want to go any smaller, like 1 inch or so. The reason for that is actually the hinge holes on the side of the hinge, they're actually pretty large. I think the nut is 7/8, so the bolt would be a little shy of that, but 1.5 inches seems to be the sweet spot. That's what we use, and that's what we recommend for the Shark hardware. Now we're going to be looking at the hinge part. They come with the holes drilled into the actual plate. On the back side, they have nuts welded onto them. And so we basically will pre-punch holes into our upright, the distance in between these two, which is about 3.5 inches. That's pretty consistent throughout all the Shark hardware. They do a pretty good job of getting right on the money, so it's very seldom that we have any play off of that, and if it is, it's probably my fault for not drilling it exactly right. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to drill, for this upright, we're going to have two holes on the top for the top hinge, and then we'll do 2 holes on the bottom for the bottom hinge, and that'll be on whatever side you'd like to hinge your gate on. And then the fabrication for the latch is basically going to be in the same square tube, and it'll be basically the distance in between these 2 holes. Now, I don't actually know what that is. We made a little jig here in the shop to make it quick and easy. The drill bit size is 9/32, and when you get the Shark hardware, it's fairly simple to just lay it out on here and take a Sharpie and mark your holes before you drill, and that'll guarantee that you get one dead in the center, and it'll just be easier for you to do it that way. So now that we went over the drilling for the hinge side, we also touched on the latch and what you need to do to drill that. Really the only other thing we do for our gates is we use the 1.5" square tube for the rectangle or the square of the gate, and then we like to attach 2x4s to the top and bottom runner of the gate. And so for that, the only thing we do is we'll punch a 3/8 inch hole on either side of the horizontal piece, and we just use like a 3.5 inch carriage bolt to basically bolt the 2x4 to the frame of the gate. And that makes it easy for the guys to go out and still be able to use the nail guns since the 2x4s are already on the gate. The hinge holes, I normally will come up from the bottom and go about 8 inches and 11.5. Now that's a distance of 3.5 inches. Does it matter where you put the holes? Yeah and no. You could really put them anywhere. Typically on any gate you'd like one to be towards the bottom and one towards the top. If you get too low and close to the bottom, that could potentially cause some problems. So this we found is a pretty good method for us. We mark 8 inches and 11.5 on both sides, and then the drill bit we use, I'll show you. So this is the drill bit we use. This says 16 millimeter. I believe it's also 5/8 or something close to that. And it really doesn't matter what drill bit you use. We prefer these ones that punch a hole or a ring around instead of just the solid drill bits. They work pretty well. And these are relatively inexpensive, and you can find them most places. So that's what we use for the hinge holes. And then for marking the top and the bottom runner for your 2x4s, those really don't matter a whole lot, but again, I try to throw mine about 8 inches in on both pieces, on both sides. And those holes are going to be drilled out with a 3/8 drill bit, and we use a 3/8 by 3.5 inch carriage bolt to attach the 2x4 to the square tube. And then the last one to mark out is the latch. Now for the single latch and the double latch, I guess, basically what we do, if we're going to be doing a 6-foot tall gate, then we're going to want the latch to be roughly about halfway on the gate frame, and that puts it at a comfortable height to grab. If you're going to be doing a 4-foot tall gate for 4-foot fence, you might want to make it a little higher. Basically, you'd want to put them where you think is going to be comfortable, knowing that the actual gate frame is going to sit off the ground 6 inches or more. So for this one, we'll mark it out at 30 inches, which will be half of 60. And then, like I said, I typically just use a spare striker to line it up on my lines and mark a couple of holes. And then that way I have a visual reference to drill the holes. Once I got my latch holes drilled in here, I have just another latch with a couple of bolts in here, and I just put it in here and make sure that the holes are aligned properly, which these ones are, so they'll be good to go. now that we're done welding the gate frame, the last thing to do before it leaves the shop is to throw 2x4s on it. We're going to go ahead and attach the 2x4s with 3.5 inch by 3/8 carriage bolts right through the 3/8 holes that we drilled on the bottom and top runner. The only other thing to note on these is when you throw your 2x4s on, you want to make sure that they're not sticking out further than they need to be on the side. Since those shark hinges close and they have pretty tight tolerance, you're going to want to get them flush on the outsides of the gate frame. Just got done throwing the 2x4s on. This gate is now ready to go over to the other side of the shop and be hung up, so take it back to you guys.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate the detailed walkthrough. Now, we're going to take this gate and install it on our fence that we've been showing you guys with the shark hinges. If you'd like to watch that full video, how to install a gate inside a fence specifically for shark hinges, we'll have it linked up here somewhere.